Alright kiddos, I'm gonna hope that this video will be a short one. This one's about the Great Depression. It should be mostly review stuff that we've already covered, but in case you forgot, here's a quick review as to things that we talked about the Great Depression. Alright, so the Great Depression again happens in 1929 when the stock market crashes. Well, it's not the cause of it, but that's kind of like that clear indicator that things are going really badly in the economy. And at the time, we have President Hoover. Again, Hoover was elected in 1928, and he will become president in 1928, 1929. And when he becomes president, he is a businessman at first. Or again, when he was elected, he was not a career politician, but he was actually a businessman. So initially, at the beginning of the Great Depression, what he tries to do is he tries to assist the development of businesses, or tries to help businesses get back on their feet by providing small loans, things of that nature, maybe tax cuts. And his idea is that if he helps out these businesses, that eventually those that help or assistance will trickle down to our urban poor, or to those that are really suffering at the bottom. Looking at the unemployment numbers from that time period, it really wasn't that successful. So he isn't a really popular guy. He does pay for some major projects like the Hoover Dam, but ultimately he isn't really very popular. Something else that made him really unpopular, this is new that you do need to know, is the bonus army. So because so many people were suffering, and because specifically our veteran population was suffering, we have a group of specifically World War I veterans who march onto Washington, D.C. asking for their bonuses. As a veteran of World War I, they were promised a certain bonus by around 1845. So they said, thank you for your services, for serving in the AEF. We'll go ahead and give you a bonus that you'll get in 1945. Again, it is only at this time, it is only 1932, so they still have 13 years to wait. But Hoover didn't have the money to really give it to them at that point. So the veterans march onto Washington, D.C. They literally camp out in front of the Capitol building. Hoover, as a response, is going to send the army to kick them out. So this is a very embarrassing moment for Hoover, because just imagine, Obama using the armed forces to kick out veterans is not going to be a very popular decision to be made. So in 1932, FDR will be elected president because he promises a new deal to the United States. And he is going to promise specifically a lot of direct relief or direct aid to a lot of our civilian population. His promises is known as the New Deal. He's going to create a lot of government reform where he's going to provide a lot of things. And ultimately creates the nickname of alphabet soup, because you can just see, like, on this little cartoon, there's all of these little medicine bottles, and they all have all these different acronyms. But FDR is trying to create a lot of new bureaucratic things to provide assistance to our general population. And he's willing to try everything to get results. Some of the major New Deal programs that you do need to know about are the ones that provide occupation, and the ones that provided some reform. So one of the things that you do need to know about is the Tennessee Valley Authority. They are the TVA. Not only do they provide a lot of jobs by creating a lot of energy construction projects in the Tennessee Valley, but it's also, again, going to provide a lot of energy to that local area around the Tennessee Valley. So it's a lot of electrical plants, a lot of like water and hydraulic plants in order to create energy. And the CCC is the Civilian Conservation Corps. What they're going to go ahead and do is they're going to provide a lot of occupation for specifically a lot of young men. So that was cool. And I pressed something, and so now something's showing up, and that's cool. That's okay. Alright, moving forward. Okay. Other things that you do need to know about is the FDIC and the Social Security um, Act. So the FDIC, again, going back to causes of the Great Depression, we have, the development of bank runs and bank panics and bank failures. And once a bank had closed, like people had lost all the money that they invested. So one thing that the government is going to do is they're going to create the FDIC program, which basically says the United States will insure and pay you back whatever money you've put into the bank up to $250,000. It was a lot less when they initially proposed it or initially began the program, but now it is up to $250,000. Social Security is to provide assistance to those who are unemployed, those who are retired, or those that have disabilities. So again, providing a lot of more assistance to maybe a lot of the individuals who might have lost their savings and maybe didn't have a lot of ways to definitely earn back that money. Is something else that FDR will propose to provide some lasting change. Even though there are a lot of like great things, for example, the TVA still exists today, the FDIC is definitely still existing today, the Social Security Act still exists today. Ultimately, looking at these numbers, we do see that the New Deal wasn't super successful, specifically in unemployment. So here you have again that steady unemployment level before the crash. Then when that crash hits, all of a sudden, when Hoover's president from 1930 to 1932, it looks really, really bad. When FDR does come in and initiate all these programs, we do see a steady decline. But ultimately, it's still not good enough. We still don't have the numbers that we had pre-Great Depression or pre-stock market crash. And so a lot of people ultimately did consider it a failure because it's really not until World War II that we are able to pull ourselves out of a depression. One thing that I did not get to cover when we went over the Great Depression that you do need to know about though is although FDR definitely had a lot of support from the people because he was getting a lot of things done and they were seeing these changes and they did notice that these reform plans were good. Sometimes the legislative body and the judicial body weren't always on Roosevelt's side. So what Roosevelt tries to do is he actually tries to add more justices to the Supreme Court, which is very, very tricky because you can see in this little cartoon, by adding more justices, basically he's adding more people that will say yes to him so that he will get more and more votes so that his things will pass. Ultimately, Congress does not agree with this. When they check his proposal, they say that this is super unconstitutional. You cannot do that. And so FDR doesn't add more justices. He gets a lot of things done, but that is definitely one thing that he was not able to accomplish. Just because a lot of people thought it was a little sketch. So that's kind of the things that you do need to know for your common assessment for the Great Depression. Again, replay this, rewind, pause, raise your hand, ask any questions that you may need to, and good luck on your common assessments. See you guys later.